Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, and I have to tell you something. This weekend, I was really surprised. Two things that I would never expect to see happen that happened. Beginning of April, Lazio second in the table. I don't remember last time it happened. And for the first time, I met a Scottish guy that never see the rain in Scotland. So, two incredible things happened this weekend. And honestly, Alistair, I don't know which is more surprising. The Scottish guy who never saw the rain in Scotland or Lazio second in the table?
Well, thankfully, as you can see behind me, is back to more familiar Scottish weather today.
Yeah.
Sunshine pouring in. Oh, come on. Yesterday was crazy. I left the Olympico last night, and just as that storm started, and I had to go and meet a friend and cycling across the city for half an hour. And when I arrived, it was like I'd just been in a shower. I was like completely soaking wet from head to toe. It was a bit embarrassing, to be honest. But anyway, the other part of what you've said is probably more interesting, isn't it? Lazio being second in April, clear in second as well.
5 points.
4 points, no?
5 points from the fifth, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Our target is that one.
It's great. Things are really clicking, and it was so important to come back from the international break and follow up that derby win with another good result, because that is, as Sadi said ahead of the match, is where we've so often fallen this season, is getting a good result in a big game and then immediately failing afterwards. So I don't think we should underestimate how big that result was, and also the fact that Monza have had good results against big teams there this season too. So yeah, really happy with that.
And the other thing, Alistair, is that after Inter losing against Fiorentina, Lazio had a little bit more pressure. And this year, things are getting a little bit different, because in the past, when Lazio had a huge chance, we missed it. This is not the first time that Inter or another opponent loses and we go and win our match and increase the gap. So that's another very important thing, because it looks to me like Lazio players are not feeling the pressure so far.
Yeah, I think they're starting to enjoy themselves a bit more. I think certainly, yeah, they've found a kind of rhythm to their game a bit more now. They've found a way of having complete faith in that defense to always keep them in a game. And you've said after the match that it's down to that. That's the reason Lazio are doing so well this season. It's not to do with the stuff Sadi's more famous for, is generally the passing, possession, attacking football. But that's not been the reason that Lazio find themselves here. It's all about that defense. And 6 clean sheets in a row now is just an incredible statistic. And 17 in 28 games. It's crazy, because let's reflect on it for a second. And I think we would have been happy even with half of that, as in terms of an improvement to what had happened before in the previous years, because this isn't just like another step up the ladder in terms of improvement. This is like starting in the basement and jumping into the ceiling. It's crazy how much that defense has improved in the course of one season.
And clean sheet in the derby against Napoli, that's not easy clean sheet for us. So that's definitely an improvement. And even against Monza, as you mentioned, Monza is a very dangerous team. They had 2 good chances in the first half. Sensi hit the post. Petagna had a nice header deflected by Provedel. In the second half, till the 89th minute, they didn't have a shot on target. So this is another important thing. We mentioned Provedel a lot of times, but the fact that even in the derby, Roma didn't create pretty much nothing. This is the important thing, Alistair. It's not only your goalkeeper making saves, but conceding very few chances to the other team. Again, against Napoli, they're winning the Scudetto easily. They created very little against Lazio. And it's not only the defense, it's everything. All the team playing together to defend and not allowing the other team to score. Last year was completely the opposite. It's like our team was helping the other team to score.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. I think it feels like it's something that the team actually prides itself on now. And that certainly didn't used to be the case. I think when Lazio were playing under Inzaghi in particular, it was the football could be very exciting at times because it was so fast and so direct, but the, so many individual errors and silly goals being given away at the other end. Whereas now it's such a big part of this team's identity that I think they really enjoy that side of the game. They enjoy the way they can frustrate opponents. I flagged up before the match the comment Sarri made. I found interesting where he was talking about
Yeah,
watching his videos of this defensive line from the training session and how he thinks they're now at the same level that he reached with his Napoli team, and a level that he was never able to reach at Chelsea or at Juventus. And that's interesting because obviously the players he had at those clubs are another level defensively to the ones he had now. But he's kind of talking not about the individuals, but about the actual system and the understanding. And it is impressive if you watch them off the ball. It's quite amazing to see the way they're linked up and the way they move together. That back four just kind of moving as one, really. And he's really got that discipline out of them. But it's important as well, like you mentioned the save from Providel, and it is a team effort. It's a team effort from attack to midfield, but also to the keeper. And it's not like the structure means that there are never any chances against us. It's because thankfully we've also got a goalkeeper who's been in such good form this season that whenever those chances get through, we can actually rely on him to be making saves over and over again. And I thought the one yesterday in Patania was excellent.
yeah, I agree. I agree. And we have to mention that Marusic didn't play, and he was one of the key players for us. So that's another important point. You were talking about the defense moving perfectly all together. Even when one key player like Marusic missed, Lazio still managed to play very well. And this is a little bit the issue with Pellegrini, right? It's difficult to see him start because when you have a system in place so perfect, I would say, you're a little bit scared of changing pieces. So I think this is the reason why Pellegrini is playing so little. Yesterday he made his debut in Serie A, but played like 7 minutes. So it wasn't a great match for him, but at least he's coming in. And going forward, I think we will see a little bit more Pellegrini going forward.
Probably, yeah. I mean, likely off the bench, like you say. I mean, it's been pretty clear from the start, though, hasn't it? That's the reason. It's Sadi feels like he needs time with players to integrate them. He's not an ideal January signing, January transfer market coach in that regard. But also, yeah, you just don't want to risk compromising what he's created because what he has created now, I mean, is ready for some stats here, Vittorio. I mean, it's the team in the top 5 leagues in Europe with the most clean sheets after Barcelona now. Only Barcelona have got a better record than Lazio.
Yeah.
And as of last night, thanks to a pretty surprising performance from Milan, Lazio actually have the best defensive record in Serie A now, all of a sudden.
Yeah, I have to say that yesterday I was supporting Napoli. I was hoping that Napoli will win that match, and so the gap between Lazio and the fifth position would have been 8 points. That would have been really, really great for us. Unfortunately, Milan find the game of the year against Napoli, and now we are the best defense. So let's see the positive side, Alistair, anyway. And talking about positive side, what can we say about Zaccagni? He hasn't been called by Mancini, and yesterday he had another terrific match. If I'm not wrong, talking about number, he got 7 fouls in 90 minutes he played, pretty much meaning that or he will dribble past you, or you had to stop it with a free kick.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's great. He's another player I think who's full of confidence at the moment. Well, I think it's probably the two things now, where it's the confidence balanced with a kind of like good level of rage. He's probably kind of a bit pissed off that he didn't get in the Italy team, and there's been all this attention about Mancini and what he's saying. So yeah, I mean that's good. It's a good motivating factor, I think, from a Lazio perspective. He's got a point to prove a little bit. And yeah, I mean, look, he obviously scored a fantastic winning goal in the derby, but his scoring record otherwise in the last couple of months hasn't been great. So it's good to see his performances coming back to a high level. And also those behind him as well. I mean, Luis Alberto Milinkovic-Savic, I think, provided a few talking points in this match, and I think the Alberto Zaccagni passageway is a really dangerous one now. I've really been enjoying the last couple of matches, seeing Alberto plays these passes a lot where it kind of goes between the two centre backs, but he bends it around
Yeah.
the left one to get into Zaccagni's runs, and he keeps doing it time and again, and he weights those passes so well, but defenses don't seem to really know how to deal with it because all they can really do is keep their structure. But the Alberto's got that ability to find Zaccagni despite not having the angle, and it's a good relationship there.
And I think, I don't know if you agree with me, that the fact that keep playing together, Zaccagni have learned what Luis Alberto think, and Luis Alberto knows what Zaccagni can do. I mean, yesterday they created the chances. The ball was a little bit too long for Zaccagni, but you see this thing happen every single match, and Lazio can become very dangerous because Luis Alberto is an incredible assist man. But if you put Zaccagni one-on-one against a defender, most of the time he's going to win that one-on-one. So, Lazio can become very dangerous like that. And I think that playing more often together, this only keep this development keep going and improve match after match.
Yeah, and I think it makes Lazio a more dynamic threat in attack than we used to be, because previously you're talking about kind of, well, Ciro, you need to just double up on Ciro, or you stifle. Teams have tried stifling Milinkovic-Savic or Alberto in midfield, but now it's kind of like, well, you need to give a lot of attention to Zaccagni, like you say, one-on-ones. You need to be paying a lot of attention to Ciro if he's on the pitch, but you need to stop those balls at source in midfield. I do wonder to a certain extent if it's taken Zaccagni a while to kind of realize quite how how good Alberto's passing is. If you're coming maybe from a team in Verona where you don't have teammates who are capable of this kind of stuff, and when he's showing himself 4 passes to his midfielders, he's giving them a simpler option, whereas now he's making those runs in behind, and he actually has faith that Alberto can find him despite it seemingly being so difficult. Because I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it, where you
Yeah.
watch it on TV and it seems simple enough, but in the congested space of a football pitch, the vision to actually pick those passes is incredible. But Vittorio, what did you think about Alberto's latest hissy fit? Once again, he's kind of, I don't know what the word really is, but his histrionics have created a few headlines. Thankfully, this time I think it's been dealt with very well and brushed aside. But he wasn't happy about being substituted, was he?
I think he's not used to anymore. I mean, it has been a couple of matches where he finished the full match, honestly playing really well. So I think he didn't expect that. Honestly, I have to say that Lazio was struggling in the last 15, 20 minutes of the game. We were too defensive. I thought Lazio midfield, when Cataldi came off, and we have to talk about Cataldi because I thought he had a very, very good match. But we were going too much. We were going backwards, and this gave Monza too much space. And when you are so far from the goal, Luis Alberto loses his power. He's not very good in that type of position. So I understand why Sarri took him off. But I have to say that Sarri coped with that very well. He's been asked about Luis Alberto in the press conference, and he smiled and said, "I don't really care. I mean, it's good if he's playing like that. I'm happy anyway." So I think we dealt with that well. And honestly, I didn't see anything bad. I mean, I don't remember which manager said, but some big manager said, "I'm happy when my players come off and they're not happy about the substitution."
Yeah. There was a line from Sadi I read that was something like, you know, he'll do this every time, even if we're winning 5-0 and it's the 93rd minute, he'll still be upset that he's being replaced. And yeah, you can see it in a positive light. I don't think it always has been seen in that way. And obviously, there's a history of Alberto, behaving a bit childishly or saying
Yeah.
the wrong things, doing the wrong things, and that's there. But I think Sadi understands him better. I think their relationship makes more sense now than it did at the start when Sadi wasn't quite aware of the fact that Alberto does things like this. So that
And Alistair, I think he was upset because he had two very good chances in the first half. So I thought he had the impression, if I keep going, maybe I can score. And instead, he'd been sudden, a little bit upset because I had two chances and I missed them. You always want to score, right? So probably he was upset for that, I guess.
yeah, I mean, I think he was playing well. So it's
Yeah.
probably just a case of that. It's like, why are you taking me off when I'm having a good game?
Alistair, can I ask you a question? Are you more happy because Milinkovic-Savic scored or because Chiro came back?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean, they're both big moments in the season. Milinkovic-Savic, I think you could tell how big a moment that was just from his reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of almost collapsed and looked very emotional. I'm not sure if there were actually tears or not, but he looked incredibly emotional, like a kind of weight had been lifted. And it's easy to not realize sometimes the impact things like this can then have on a player. And he's not played great since the World Cup. He's not been in good form. He's not been scoring goals. He's not been providing assists. And there were criticisms out there, and clearly it got to him because he said after the match that it got to him. So I don't know. I mean, did you think, because this is something I've read, I missed the very end of the game, but there seemed to be a feeling that once he scored, he actually started playing a lot better. And I did wonder if there's an element of that weight being lifted where suddenly he's not got that tenseness, that anxiety where he feels like he needs to be scoring in every game and he can actually just enjoy himself a bit now.
I thought he played better, not still at the level we were used to it, but at least he moved better. He defended much better in the last 15 minutes where we were struggling. So that's definitely a positive sign. I think, from a player like Milinkovic, who always been looked like the best player on the pitch, etc., who started the season very well because I don't know when he made the last assist, but he's still top three. And I think it's 4 months that he hasn't made an assist. So this tells you how well the season started for him.
Yeah.
So being
top,
back,
top foreign scorer as well now for Lazio.
Yeah, he passed Miro Klose. He said he didn't care. The most important thing was scoring, going back to score a goal and providing 3 points to Lazio. But I think it's something that he will think about it this week. So this is important to have Milinkovic back. But I would say that seeing Ciro back on the pitch, that's very important because Saturday is Lazio Juventus, and we saw it because Lazio played the last 2 or 3 matches without Ciro against Juventus, and it didn't end well. So I think Ciro is very important for that type of match for Lazio.
I mean, if there's ever a game that's going to finish 0-0, it's this one. What do you think? I mean, Juve are still, to me, so unimpressive. Whenever I watch them, I think, my God, I mean, it's kind of gone back to classic Allegri Juve, really, where they're bad to watch. They don't really play much football, but they keep winning games. And they're on an amazing run now. I think it's 5 wins in a row after the one against Verona. But even if you watch back the highlights of the Verona game, it's like, God, Verona had chances there, and Juve didn't create much because there weren't many highlights of note in the 3 minutes or so on the Serie A YouTube page. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one to see how that'll kind of balance out. But but potentially a massive game, isn't it? I mean, it is always a massive game, but in terms of the league table, with Juve's appeal, we're still waiting, still a couple of weeks until we'll get that. But we're not actually sure yet, are we, how big this game is going to be?
I think it's going to be really important anyway. Obviously, it's a key match for us, but even if they don't give back the points to Juventus, they're close. They're 44 points. They won the last three. So with Inter and the other teams struggling, I think um, this could be very important. Let's not forget that on Saturday, Roma will play away against Torino. So you have a chance to, if you win against Juventus, you have a chance to increase your gap between you and the fifth on the table. And I don't know about you, Alistair, but we lost three bad games against Juventus. The last one away, we pretty much didn't play. Same thing last year. So I want to see the team playing. That's the first thing. We saw them compete against Milan, Napoli, etc. Now I want to see it against Juventus, who plays a different football. We know that that type of football can create issue to us. So that's why Ciro Immobile is important. But, playing at home with this type of form, because you were mentioning Juventus, but I mean, Lazio in the last 5 games got 4 points out of Napoli. I'm not thinking about the Scudetto race, but in 5 games we got 4 points. So we are not playing that bad. We recover Ciro. Is Milinkovic is back. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting game. I think Lazio will rely on the game plan, while Juventus, I don't know if Chiesa will be back, if Di Maria will be playing, but Allegri will try to make the difference with the talent they have in the team. So Di Maria and Chiesa are the most dangerous players if they will play.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's it's the thing I find strangest about that team is they have, when you look at the squad, my God, they've got an abundance of talent and attacking talent as well. And it's just either the players they've got, they're not getting the best out of, Vlahovic being the chief one. But behind him, you've got Milik, who's been having a good season. Di Maria and Chiesa, it's amazing options that they have in that team. So there's no way that you can, rely on the fact that their attack is going to be blunt just because that's the way they've been playing. I think that we can be encouraged by, obviously the recent form and the recent form of the defense. Also, the big game record this season has been excellent. I mean, obviously, the caveat there that you mentioned is that the one big exception really was the last game against Juventus.
Yes.
3-0 in Turin. But, it's a Saturday night game. I think that's great. 8:45 kickoff on a Saturday night. I think it's going to be good atmosphere. It's going to feel like a big occasion. I mean, one of the best Lazio atmosphere outside of the derby games. One of the best games I've ever been to for atmosphere was the Juve game in that 1920 season, when it was the two of us fighting at the top before COVID came. And we won 3-1, came from behind. Ronaldo scored, and then we came from behind to win 3-1. And the atmosphere that night was unbelievable. So there is something about Juve and just who they are and what they represent and the powerhouse of Italian football. It does bring those big occasions when they come.
I'm a little bit concerned because it's Easter the day afterwards. So, I fear that a lot of people will go away for the weekend. I hope they don't. I was supposed to go, and I said, Lazio Juventus, I'm staying. But I don't know how many other will point their feet like I did. So, but yes, I mean, if you have the chance, you have to go to this match. I mean, it's not a Scudetto contender, but could really change the season for Lazio. I mean, if you win against Juventus and, maybe Roma, Milan, and Inter drop points again, it's 9 games to go, and maybe with 8 points from the 5th position. I mean, it's huge.
Would a draw be a good result?
You know what? For once, I wouldn't accept it now. Then it depends how we play. But for now, I'm looking forward to the 3 points. And as you were mentioning, Juventus is playing rubbish. They are still a very good team. They can win any game, but they can. I mean, they lost against Roma, and Roma wasn't playing great football. So I think if Lazio play the best, we can win it. We should win it, I would say. But uh, it's we struggled against Juventus in the past, so I would try to win it, honestly.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is they've got a couple of distractions coming up because tomorrow night they've got the Coppa Italia semi against Inter as well. And then after that, the Europa League tie against Sporting. So it's something that we're going to start seeing is that Lazio, we're going to start feeling the benefit of having been eliminated from all the other competitions. And let's not try and pretend that was intentional. But the fact that Lazio can now have full focus on every single Serie A game, I think, is going to be a point of difference. And I think Sadi just seems happier now because of that. I mean, maybe it's because of the way his team's playing and the results they're getting as well. But I think Sadi has clearly got a big issue with modern football and the way that the fixture list is congested and the way things have changed. He's your classic grumpy old man. And I think now that he can actually focus on a Serie A game every Sunday, basically, he's a lot happier.
Yeah, I think there's one thing we have to mention. Lazio will play, what is it, 5 games in April, while Juventus and Inter will play 9. So that's a big difference. And Roma and Milan 7. So, it's nearly the double of the games Inter and Juventus will play this month. So this could have a huge impact. And I don't know, do we support them in Europe so they will play even more in May? Or do we think, okay, it's enough, you can go out?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that they seem to be trying everything at the moment to get this team motivated, including, by the way, the story about Lotito having offered this bonus of, what was it, 2 million euros to the squad if they qualify for the Champions League. So I think you're trying to motivate this team in every way in terms of by the performances and the training and the big games coming up and the money and everything. So, and also you've got the added thing of, Pedro was quite honest about this. His contract is up at the end of the season. They asked him about it, like, does it matter? Does it depend on the Champions League? And he was like, well, yeah, it would make a difference. So, I mean, there's another level there of motivation for everyone to get the Champions League places, that also it means you might keep a couple more players in the squad for next season too, not to mention the players you'd be able to attract. So I think everyone knows how big this is, how much it would mean for Sadi's kind of, I guess, growth, because it would be a big deal, I think, to go from first season to second season and make that step. The other thing we need to talk about before we finish is Sadi's comments after the game about feeling like he could stay at Lazio for the rest of his career. I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, the first thing I thought is, oh my God, does he want to retire in 2 years' time?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. The quote was, I mean, incredible, right? And I was thinking, I don't remember Simone Inzaghi saying something like that. I don't remember any Lazio manager saying something like that. So that's really encouraging. It's really
Inzaghi was like 43, though, to be fair.
Yeah, but he always said that he's a Lazio fan, So your probably dream is to win something with Lazio. So yeah, it's incredible, and I think, Alistair, that all this improvement, I think a little bit, Sarri's putting something more because he feel the passion, he feel the love of the Laziali for him and for this team, and maybe he's the extra care he's putting in, it's showing up. And winning the derby, they asked him, when was it? I don't remember the last match, maybe against Napoli or against Milan, what was the match that provided you more joy? And he said the derby. So, I think he's becoming more and more laziale. So that's incredible, I think.
Yeah, and he made this comment, which he's made actually a few times before, about how, like, I never realized from the outside what Lazio fans are like, what this club is like, and then once you actually come in, it's just it's amazing what it feels like, and the kind of, I can't remember the exact words he used, but he's been just blown away by the support he's had, and the kind of passion of the fan base and all the rest of it since he actually came in. So yeah, it does feel like he is becoming a kind of club man, and the big unknown there is obviously the ongoing tension with Iglitare and how that works out.
But again, he said that he feels loved. He has a perfect relationship in the club. But then there are rumors that he's not very happy about Iglitare. So I was wondering, are these rumors real? Because I mean, if Sarri had a problem with Tare, I don't believe he would say, "Well, my club is supporting me. I'm very happy with the club, etc." If he had a fight with Tare for everything, where do you stand, Alison? Do you believe it or?
I do feel there's a level of tension there. Like it comes through from the interviews that Tari gives, probably more than the ones that Sadi gives. But Sadi has been very open about how he feels about everything, and this whole thing about the objectives and Champions League top four. That was kind of what became the big headline in the story. But I think there have been a few of these back and forths throughout the season where Tade will say something that's slightly different, or there'll be slight kind of, I don't know, passive aggression to certain comments, and I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say for sure. I don't think it's been completely fabricated. I feel like there's something there. I mean, how serious it is or not is another question, because these things happen in any job, in any work environment where you might have disagreements. That doesn't mean that somebody has to be sacked. That doesn't mean that it's going to completely ruin the entire project. It's just something to work with. So who knows? I mean, we'll probably see more once the transfer stuff starts happening again, because essentially that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's all about the Sarri's idea of what the squad should look like.
Alison, you mentioned Pedro. Because before we wrap it up, would you re-sign Pedro's contract this summer?
Yeah, give him another year for sure. Yeah, I think he's been brilliant. And look, I know he's getting on an age, but I think you need to look at performances rather than the date on his birth certificate, because he is still performing at a high level. He's still, again yesterday, he's still scoring goals. And yeah, okay, maybe in the next year he wouldn't be starting as many games as he has done this year. You wouldn't want to rely on him starting them. But I think to have, as a squad player, to be able to improve the quality of strength and depth of the squad, and also to just have that kind of character around with that level of experience. And I mean, he has played in probably the best football team we've ever seen in our lives, in that Barcelona team. So, there is an incredible level of knowledge there and expertise for him to share with the squad too. So yeah, I think it's something Lazio should be doing if he wants to.
Especially if we go in the Champions League. I think you need a player with that experience. And again, yesterday he proved it, right? The first goal, it was a couple of mistakes from both sides, and he already knew where the ball was going and anticipated everybody. That's
yeah.
It's
like in slow motion. That it was crazy. That goes like everyone just stopped,
or falling apart, or missing the ball, etc. It was funny. And then Pedro came like, well, I'll take it. So yeah, I think it's really important. And yesterday in the second half, you can see he was tired, but I mean the impact he has, it's unbelievable at this age. So yeah, definitely I will try to sign him. And then you have to decide what to do with the Cancelliere and Romero, I think. But we need to sign a Vice Immobile. Definitely. That has to be our goal.
Yeah, I would add that I would definitely give Pedro another contract, but that is not to say that I would do that at the expense of
No,
actually signing other players in attack, because we do still need to reinforce.
especially if we are ending in the Champions League. I mean,
Yeah.
you cannot expect Ciro to play both Serie A and Champions League. Do you start Ciro on Saturday? And we close it like this.
Probably, yeah. I mean, if he's fit, I think Sadi said the only reason he was on the bench was because they chatted together and he'd only had a few training sessions. He didn't feel ready, but I quite like the staffetta thing they've been doing. It seems to work quite nicely, giving them both a bit of time. I wouldn't be that surprised if they do it the same way as they did against Monza, to be honest, where you start with Anderson and there's that slightly more structured game plan and you settle into the game that way, and then bring on Ciro in the second half to have a bit added level of threat. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'd be happy either way, to be honest. How about you?
I think Ciro needs to start in this game. He provides more confidence to the team. He's more a leader, and I think in this type of matches you need it from the start. And then I don't know, maybe Pedro can start from the bench and come in the beginning of the second half, because the thing is, I was noticing that when Felipe Anderson comes in from the bench, he's not playing very well. He doesn't provide that boost, that help that he does when he starts games. So if Ciro has to start, then Pedro has to be the player coming in. That's the only thing I would add.
Yeah, I think he would be, though. I think
Yeah.
that's the move, isn't it? It's once Ciro's back, I think Anderson will end up back on that right wing.
And Zaccagni keep out on the left. He's amazing there.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. No, it's a good point. I think Ciro will love that opportunity as well, to be back in the team for a big home game against Juventus. I mean, it's something an opportunity I'm sure he'd be very excited about. So yeah.
Definitely. Okay, Alistair, thank you again. And it's still sunny, so you should be safe today. And thanks everybody for listening. Remember that you can support our podcast at patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. And we'll be back on Monday, I think, even though here is holiday. So maybe Monday or Tuesday we can record the podcast. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going out. I told you so. Take care, everybody. And we'll be back after Lazio Juventus. Ciao.
Cheers.